Hi there again, everybody. Boyd back with you, and welcome to another segment of TrekWorks. I'm working on the TOS 350 kit here a little bit more, and you guys remember where I left off in the last video. I was making progress, and I was talking about how I was going to do some work on the model to get these spinning Bussard motors from round 2 lighting kit to run a little bit quieter. I know a lot of you have noticed looking at other videos and seeing it out there that they're kind of annoyingly loud, and I've come up with a couple simple solutions here to help cut down on a lot of the noise. Now, granted, these are electric motors, so you're not going to be able to get rid of the sound completely, but we can cut down on a lot of that vibration and a lot of that kind of noise that's being transmitted through the plastic of the model. Now you can see what you're dealing with here is you've got an electric motor that's sitting in the end of this nacelle, which is basically a hollow tube, which is sort of acting like a megaphone. It's transmitting the sound and amplifying the sound all the way through it, and it really creates an annoying racket. And one of the other things I noticed after watching some of the videos out there of how these were done on some of the other builds I've seen, there seems to be like an annoying kind of scraping plastic sound going on when they're rotating. And one of the things I figured out, there's a couple steps you can take to get rid of that, especially the scraping sound. You want to make sure that all your clearances are good and that your spinner in there is running true. Now, one of the things that I'll talk about here first is these are the little electric motors that come with the round 2 lighting kit. And one of the problems that these motors have is that if you examine this output shaft here fairly closely, you'll see that it actually has a little bit of play in it. And that's because there's a gear mechanism inside there, and it's not exactly perfectly true, and it's not exactly directly attached to the armature inside of this motor where it's running on a true bearing or a bushing in there to keep it exactly centered. So we're just dealing with some plastic gears here, so you can expect a little bit of run out when you attach your spinner onto that. And you're going to notice that when you start working on yours. Now, one of the problems with this is being a gear-driven motor, it's going to put out a little bit of vibration. And if you look at your kit-supplied part here, where the motor is basically press-fit into this housing here, this metal housing is touching directly on the plastic. So once this plastic is mounted onto the nacelle up here, it's just going to transmit that sound and through the entire model. That entire plastic thing is going to pick up that vibrating and just get louder and louder. And it's just like I said, this tube is like basically a megaphone, so it's amplifying the sound. So what I came up with here is that I went to the store and bought some basic Velcro. You can get this in many different colors, but this happens to be white, and I'm using the fuzzy part of the Velcro. And I just basically wrap this around the motor here. And what that's going to do is that's going to isolate that metal case from touching on the plastic part of the housing here, and we're going to isolate a lot of that vibration and get rid of a lot of that. Now you're asking, well, that might hurt the motor. Well, these little motors they spin so slow, and you can see by looking at them when you examine them that there's no holes cut into it for ventilation where they're worried about overheating or anything like that. So you're not going to have to worry about covering these up with this Velcro here and making their motors run hot or anything. Again, they're really low RPM motors. And then over here what I did is I modified the hole where the motors are mounted in by drilling that out. I can't tell you an exact size to drill that out to because the thickness may vary on the Velcro that you're using, and I don't want to tell you to drill a certain size hole and then it winds up being too big. But what you basically want to do is keep making it bigger and bigger and keep test fitting the motor into it so that you can push it in there, with a fairly good amount of force so that the motor still fits in there nice and snugly, and it won't have the ability to move around really easily, and it'll stay in place basically where you put it. And that'll be your beginning step on this to where you can get the motor mounted in there, and we'll have a lot of that sound isolated. Now the second modification that I did here is take into account that there is a little bit of run out on the spinner itself, which I'll show you in just a second. The spinner shaft actually passes through this board right here, and they don't leave you very much clearance on that board for that shaft to pass through. So if it's not exactly perfectly centered, that's where your part of your plastic scraping sound is coming in as it rotates. It's touching on the edge of the board here. Now they leave you plenty of extra meat. This is just a fiberglass matte material that this board is made out of. So I took my Dremel tool and I just slightly enlarged this hole. You don't have to worry about, there's no printed circuit in there or anything that's really close to that or anything that you're going to damage. You can make that hole a little bit bigger to give you some extra clearance there so that that spinner doesn't touch on that. And that'll prevent a lot of the grinding plastic sound that we talked about that you see on so many of the videos of these being demonstrated. Now over here, what I've done is I've already finished doing the work, but I chucked up this spinner in my drill here, and when I spun the drill, I could immediately see that it had a little bit of what we call run out, like when it was turning, it was wobbling. And so what I did to fix that, and you want to chuck it in there fairly, tight enough where it doesn't spin, but you don't want to over chuck that to where you crush or break that shaft, but you can do that just right. And I held my file in place on my bench here, and just brought the drill up to it and just held that against it with a little bit of medium pressure and spun the drill at a fairly, like a medium speed, and just let it work its magic. And after about maybe 30 seconds or so, I had the edge of that spinner where it was perfectly true, and when you spin it now, it doesn't do any of this running out or wobbling. And that works great for in here too, because what was actually happening was the edge of the spinner having that run out was scraping on the edges of this board here. And so now we're going to have a nice straight spinner in there that's not going to be wobbling or touching anything in there, so you get rid of all your clearance problems, and that takes care of all the rubbing noise. So the next step to this is what we're going to talk about is when we actually mount this into the model, you can see that when you install this part right here, that as it matches up to the hole over here, you get a pretty snug fit. And so what I wound up doing, I haven't done it on this part yet, I took my grinding tool, my file, and I removed some material off of this so that I, maybe a 1/16 of an inch overall, took that down in size so that it actually isn't going to touch anywhere inside on the plastic of the nacelle. And you're thinking, well, that's how it's held in place and that's how it's glued and everything, but actually you can attach these rings that you guys that have built this model know what I'm talking about. These concentric rings go on here, and they go on a certain way. You glue those in place, and then I'm using this nice silicone sealant material here, which dries nice and tight when it's all dried up. It takes a little longer than glue to dry. I don't leave it sit on there overnight. But basically what I did with this one here is I just siliconed the front flange here and stuck the assembly onto that, and I taped it in place so it was nice and straight and everything, and let it dry, and we've got a nice solid mount on here now. And the beauty about that is that being it's silicone, it'll stick on there nice and hard. I mean, it'll take a really good knock to knock it off of there. But later on, if you ever had a problem with your motor or something like that, or something went bad, you can much easier than glue break that back off of there and get at that and pull it out to work on it again and replace the motor or whatever you needed to do. So that's kind of a plus situation on that. Now what that silicone is also doing is it's creating sort of a rubber or a cushioned buffer on that as it sits against here, so it's actually isolating that plastic on plastic thing from happening and giving you even more of a quieter sound. Now here inside the nacelle, I've cut these little strips of foam rubber, and I've actually inserted them inside the nacelle here, and that's actually deadening down the sound even more, so it doesn't transmit sound through that there like like a megaphone. Like I said, it kind of breaks it up and it muffles it down. You can push this in here, and even if you're doing your lighting, if you're, I'm not doing lighting on this grill area of the model, but even if you were doing your lighting on that, you've still got enough room to work that in there and get your lighting in there behind that. So it works out really well, and it fits in there perfectly. It won't harm anything. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on now, and I just want you to hear how quiet that is. Now again, keep in mind that that's still an electric motor, so you're hearing the whine of the motor itself, but you're not hearing any of that horrible grinding and vibration sound that is so loud and annoying on these models. My goal of this, I have the Master Replicas Enterprise. Let me tell you, that thing is extremely noisy when it's running, and I wanted to come up with something that was at least quieter than that. And you can see on this setup right here, it's working very, very well. It's coming through. We've quieted down about at least 50% of that sound that was coming through on this model from before. And those of you that are using, in my opinion, this factory setup here spins a little bit too fast. You could actually install a voltage regulator in there and reduce the speed of that motor, and that will drop the sound down even more. The problem that you have to worry about there is that the way they've got the wiring on this is that the Bussard twinkling effect there, it needs exactly 12.4 volts to have the logic board on there make that twinkling effect. If you drop it any lower than that, the twinkling goes away and they'll just stay on constantly, or some of them might not even light all the way. So you're going to have to run a separate power line up to that to where you can control the voltage to the motor, but not to the uh, lighting effects itself. That has to get the full amount of power, so keep that in mind if you want to wire up some kind of voltage reduction on that. But other than that, it's working very, very well, guys. I just thought I'd show you this little trick. And we're going to go ahead and finish installing this other one now. But again, some very simple procedures, some very inexpensive modifications, things you can easily get, and it will definitely help you out. And again, this is much quieter than what this would be normally. And I think you can probably hear that it's dead quiet in the shop here. And I stand back a few feet and you can barely hear this thing running, not like before with the grinding and the vibrating. So I'm really pleased with how that turned out, and I hope that helps you guys out there. So, all right, guys, well, I'll come back in a couple of seconds here, and we're going to get more work done on this. We're going to install the other Bussard motor, and we're going to start installing all the other details and putting a lot of our photo etch on, and go from there. So I'll be back with that in just a couple seconds, guys. Okay, everybody, I'm back, and I have a lot of work done on Robert's classic Enterprise here. I'm happy to say that we've got another beautiful Starship Enterprise ready to leave the TrekWorks shipyards, and it really turned out fantastic. I was able to go back and get all the seam work done on the saucer. All the putty and seam work is completed and repainted on that, and we've gone and added all the markings on it now, and we've added all the beautiful photo etch details, and the manifolds have all been installed. So everything is pretty much wrapped up on this except for a couple little minor things. But here you can see the nice manifolds and the photo etch grills and everything. Here's the Bussards, and you can see that they look just like they should on the show with the frosted fronts, and you can kind of see the fan blades showing through there. It just looks beautiful. And up on the saucer, all the markings are nice and straight and everything laid down beautifully on that. Here's the bottom side. All the markings are on there as well. We'll kind of take you around. You can see the beautiful deflector dish in place there, nice and straight, and all the nice windows and markings along the sides here and on the bottom. Everything's really looking good on this. On the back side here you can see the shuttle bay. Now that it's all fully completed, it turned out very well. And we've got our green dome there in place and our little beacon lights. I'll spin her around here for you so you can see the starboard side here. And it's just beautiful. It turned out very, very, very nice. I'm really pleased with it. And she all came together perfectly. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about these motors that we worked on here, guys. As you know, I did a lot of work to try to get those quieted down. Now, keep in mind that these motors are gear-driven, so you cannot get rid of the sound completely. But you're going to hear a little bit of noise. But what we did eliminate was the plastic scraping sound that you often hear on these, and the hollow kind of reverberating sound that tends to go all the way through these nacelles and just sound loud from all angles. And so that extra work we did really made a difference here. I'm going to turn this on for you, and then I'll be quiet for a couple of seconds so you can hear what it sounds like. Now keep in mind you can still hear a little bit of sound there, guys, but that is in person a lot quieter than what it was previously. And this is also quite a bit quieter than my Master Replicas Enterprise, which that thing will drive you out of the room after an hour or so of listening to it. Those are extremely loud. But this is much, much better. And you can see we've got our beautiful twinkling going on in our Bussard collectors there, just like it did on the TV show with the fan blades spinning nicely. And we've got these all aligned with no rubbing issues and everything, so hopefully that will add to the lifespan of those motors and they won't have to work as hard. And we did the best we could with that, so I'm very pleased. And here I'll take you up on the top now and show you. You can see again the detail on the bridge. I haven't added the dome on this yet because I'm waiting for the 350 figures to come in that I ran out of for the Captain Kirk figure and the two helmsmen. Those should be here by Tuesday or Wednesday, and we'll get those put in. And I also haven't done the canopy glue in the windows here yet, and they're twinkling a little bit. Just a couple little minor things to finish up, but all of our lighting's working really nice. Came out beautifully. Take you around to the shuttle bay again here. And we'll have a look at the ceiling detail there. You can see we've got that nice photo etch panel there at the top, just like on the TV show. Turned out really, really good. And our little open shuttle there with the guy, and I'll replace that figure that I lost there in the back as well when I get the 350 scale figures in. But everything turned out very, very nice on this. I just wanted to say a special shout out to Robert. This is your model, and I know that you're really, really going to like it when you get it, Robert. I wanted to say thank you very much for allowing me to build this model for you. I really appreciate it. And I've got actually now 2 more commissions that have come in for this, so I hope you guys don't get sick of seeing classic Enterprise builds. But I'll be showing you little snippets of those as I go along, little updates and things like that, and just to keep you abreast of what's going on. I really appreciate the positive comments and support through all these project guys. It means a lot. I know I've been really busy lately, and I apologize if I've missed any of your questions or attempts to contact me. I'm getting about 100 emails and PMs per day asking from everything from building models to questions about my Cosmic Colors paints, and helpful, asking to help out with tips on some problems that people are running into. So I'm trying to answer everybody, but if something falls through the cracks, guys, if you don't hear from me in a day or two, just send me another message, and hopefully I'll pick it up the second time. I don't mean to ignore anybody or anything like that. It's just that there's just so much more coming in, and I'm working full-time and then doing this as well, and there's only so much time I can spend going through all the messages per day. But again, if you have something you want to ask me or whatever, just contact me at that info@trekworks.net, and again, I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and I really appreciate that. So, all right, guys, well, this is going to be a wrap on this one. Our next build, as I mentioned, will be the J.J. Abrams Into Darkness Enterprise. We're going to be doing the beautiful Aztec paintwork on that using the orbital dry dock masks, and I'll have another opportunity to show you those in action. And we're going to use the Tenna Controls lighting kit with the nice Bussard effects and the unique strobe lights that that particular ship has. So I'm really amped up about building that one. That's going to be a lot of fun, and hope you guys will tune in and check it out. So it's time to go for this video, guys. Take care out there. Build those models. Until we see you next time, everyone, happy modeling.